very good morning to you on this 26th day of January. It is a Monday morning, and if you've joined us, then you are on the fifth connection. You've joined us at the fifth connection. And this morning, we are going to continue in our talk through the storyline of the book of Ephesians. We are in chapter 6 and verse line 4. Verse line number 4. Remember, the Bible is an unfolding story, and the final compilation of the story is what we have today in its final form. It starts out in a garden, and it ends in the garden of God. It starts out once upon a time, the time marker in the beginning, and it ends happily ever after in the presence of God in the eternal city. We have been looking at the field of relationality in Ephesians chapter 6 and going from chapter 5 verse 22 all the way to 6 verse number 9. The writer is talking about the field of relationships. He's talking about husband and wife, parents and children. And then he's going to go on to slaves and masters. And he's not being exhaustive in this section, but he's highlighting some of what we call the Hustafellen texts. They are the texts that have to do with household order. The word Hustafellen has to do with household codes. It's the German descriptor for household order. And in the family of God, the individual family and the church family is patterned after one another. The pattern for the home is the pattern for the assembly. And how the assembly conducts her life. The writer has started out in verse number 1 to verse number 3, talking about fathers and mothers and children obeying their parents. Now he goes into verse number 4, but he does that from a very distinctive frame. He does that, as I have mentioned already, he does that from a relational frame, a relational point of view. And why a relational point of view? Well, he mentions from chapter 4, verse number 1, the importance of your and my living with increased capacity. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 of Ephesians talks about living with increased awareness, increased consciousness of who we are. We are in Christ, en Christo, is the constant description in the first 3 chapters. Followed by 4 to 6, en pneumati, in the Spirit. Those who are in Christ are to live out their lives as followers of the way, incarnating the life of Christ. So I need to live with increased capacity. How do I live with increased capacity? Chapter 4, verse 1, walk worthy. Walk with your life in balance to what you say you understand about who you are, because you will really live what you really believe. And the emphasis is on really. Not saying what you believe, but you will really live what you really believe, because this thing is an incarnational thing. It's not about saying, I believe this and this and this and this and this, as if you are to function in life separate from propositions and what the Bible teaches. But you don't conduct your life purely based upon the propositions that you say you believe. You can believe all the right stuff and you can live like a dog. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because you don't understand that this is a lifestyle. The gospel is a pattern of life, a pattern for living. That's what it is. It's not just saying Jesus says, full stop, I'm headed for heaven, full stop, and that's it. How about living that heavenly life down here on this hellish earth? Because godliness is the thing that counts not only for eternity, but also for time. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse number 7. Bodily exercise profits little, but godliness profits not only for the year and now, but also the year after. And we've been very weak at talking through and talking about and reasoning our way through how we need to be living on Mother Earth, on planet Earth, and living inside of a marriage, inside of a family, inside of a job, on the street, in the community, and in the life of the assembly. So walk worthy, walk in love, walk in light, and walk in wisdom. Because that's what this section is all about. This relationality section, this field of relationality requires great wisdom. Walk wisely, because as you see the day approaching, you must make use of every opportunity, making the most of your time. Walk worthy, walk in love, walk in light, and walk with high skill. Skillful navigation of all the difficulty of life. And so the believing community is the focus in this section, the field of relationality. And how do I conduct my life inside of this field, inside of what we now commonly call the real world? Well, watch what verse number 4 says. The writer has just talked about children obeying parents. Children, obey your generative originators. Your parents are those who gave you birth. Now verse 4, fathers. In a world where fathers have run away. In a country where fathers have run away. Listen to the statistic. The 2021 census in South Africa concerning fatherless homes says that 60 to 65% of our boys are growing up without daddies. Because you see, the way of the coward is to run. Our males are impregnating women and they are running. I've just come out of a long stint in the teaching profession, and if you want to know anything about that, get into a school and watch what has happened. Poor mommies are taking the heat because they are single-handedly rearing their boys and their children. And the poor gogos take heat. Here the word is to fathers. Do not provoke your children to anger. Now, let's just talk to the daddies very quickly, because as males, we are too easily overtaken with deep, disruptive emotions. And we provoke our children to anger. We incite them to become explosive because we say we have testosterone running in our veins, in our bodies. Well, there are too many testosteronic spills. Right here across the Western Cape, there are shootings 9 times to the dozen. Now there's talk about the president considering the option of sending in the army. Why? Well, a lot of that has to do with historical precedents. But on top of that, daddies have walked away. Because daddies think they're the hottest thing on 2 legs. And because they are hot stuff, every female needs their seed. And they impregnate women, and then they duck off the scene. That's how masculine we are in this little city of ours. Do not provoke your children to anger. Oh, I've seen angry boys every single day of my teaching life. Angry boys because they've grown up without fathers. And think of the ripple effect. Think of the knock-on effect that all of that has in our culture and in our society. With gang violence exploding across the Western Cape, across the peninsula. And you have a lot of talk, a lot of us just, opening our mouths. Like one guy says, oh, no, I don't think about what I'm going to say. I just open my mouth and God gives me the words to say. Well, my response to them is be careful. And the next time you open your mouth, it just may get filled with an east wind. Because a lot of hot air gets blown. And daddies are called not to provoke their children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. This platform at this point is not meant to be a parenting seminar. At this stage, we are just walking through the storyline and showing the continuity that out of a high consciousness awareness of who we are, a high ontic epistemology, I understand who I am. And I understand what it means to be human, a human being. And out of that, I understand my function in my family. But you see, our homes are so broken. Very little semblance of what health, substantial health looks like. Very few healthy daddies around. Because if they're not working, then they are living it up and not nurturing those under their care. Well, let's look at the reframe here. Generative male originators, do not irritate your offspring to high internal emotive disruption. Sometimes that's the impression you get. Daddies are nurturing boys in particular to be violent and to become violent because you see they watch daddy and they see the way daddy solves problems is to violently beat up on mom and beat up on the kids. Do not irritate your offspring to high internal emotive disruption, but create an ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? A tenderly balanced environment within which you are nurturing your children. Create an environment like that is tender. Oh, men don't know how to be tender. They don't know how to love. And they don't know how to accept love. And because of that, they are emotional cripples. They are like emotional quadriplegics. Create an ecosystem of care that is defined by the designated one. He is the risen Lord. Bring the children up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And if you've not had a good role model, it is extremely tough to model what bringing up children in the discipline and admonition of the Lord looks like. But God can teach you in the context of the assembly. In the context of the believing community, you can learn what being loving looks like. A loving husband, a loving father, a nurturing father, not a father who enables fraught behavior. And you may say, well, we're being tough on dads. Yes, we are. Because the soft targets take the heat. The mommies take the heat in ways that you won't believe. This morning, as a father, you're going to have opportunities with your offspring. You're going to drop them at school. How do you greet them when you drop them off? It's like, get out of the car. I don't want to see you again. And you better watch out because you're in for a hiding tonight. It's the kind of frames that we nurture our kids in and we've been nurtured in. So we don't understand what loving community life is all about. You'll have opportunity today to be the kind of dad that God desires you to be. Tender, loving, and kind. You say, well, what's that? Well, we're going to talk some more into that whole area. And so as you go into this day, I trust that you will take the opportunities to be the kind of dad that God has called you to be. Make a decision to be. Have a good day and goodbye for now.